thank you very much for the nice introduction. So we've heard quite a lot about the EU AI Act today already, so I'm quite looking forward to speaking to you about the AI Act and its technical provisions in particular. Well, Europe's take on artificial intelligence has been made clear over the past few years. AI made in Europe, but not only made in Europe, but also deployed in Europe, will distinguish itself by clear ethical and responsibility principles. This again was stressed out in the beginning of February from the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, at the AI Action Summit in Paris, when she announced this 200 billion euro investment in the development of trustworthy AI made in Europe. To get an idea of what trustworthy AI means for the European Union, we have to take a look at the EU AI Act. So let's look at the AI Act's big picture. We've heard before that the AI Act is based on a risk process. So AI applications are categorized in different risk categories, with, at the top, starting with the unaccepted risks. So the AI Act defines certain types of applications for which the use of AI should be forbidden. This goes in the direction, for example, of social scoring, which is not allowed in the European Union. Then if we go down this risk pyramid to the next point, we have the high-risk AI applications. High risk is the category where most of the provisions and obligations of the AI Act are tailored to. For these AI systems, a multitude of obligations apply, some of which are concerning your processes and your compliance management, and some of which are actually of technical nature. If you want to know if your AI application that you want to deploy or that you maybe also want to develop falls under this category, you can check in the AI Act in the Annex 3 of it, where a definition lists all the applicational areas which currently are considered high risk by the EU, but which might be subject to extensions, of course, in the future. For other AI applications, only a few obligations apply. For example, if you have an AI which is interfacing with a customer, so a customer should use this AI system, you have to make it clear for the customer that he or she is interacting with an AI system. To know what you currently have to follow yet, let's look at a course implementation timeline of the EU AI Act. So as already mentioned, in August last year, the EU AI Act came into effect, but at this point, none of the provisions applied yet. This changed last month, we've heard that already, when the provisions on the one hand on the forbidden AI practices came into effect, and on the other hand, the provisions on AI literacy came into effect. So currently, if you use AI in your company, especially in a high-risk application, you have to make sure that your personnel is appropriately trained and made aware of the circumstances and the implications of using AI. The next big step will come in August this year, because by this point, all member states will have to have defined notifying authorities governing and surveilling the provisions of the AI Act in the respective country. And next year, at latest in August 2026, most of the rest of the provisions and obligations will enter into force. So at latest, by this point, you have to be compliant with the AI Act if you want to avoid the hefty fines which are also declared in the Act. So what are these provisions that you have to follow? If we take a look into the AI Act, it currently consists of 13 chapters spanning from the definition of what is AI for the European Union from their perspective, over the prohibited AI practices, to high-risk systems, transparency obligations, and a whole chapter about general-purpose AI models and their use. Most of the technical requirements that we have to deal with are defined in this chapter 3, which covers the high-risk AI systems. And it tells us that for our AI, we have to draw up a technical documentation, that we have to report on the accuracy, the robustness, and cybersecurity of our AI systems, that we maybe have to meet certain transparency and information obligations, that we have to establish a data governance system within our company, especially in the context of possible biases, which we've also heard before in previous talks, which might be persistent in these data sets. And we have to bring this all together in a quality management system that we have to establish for AI in our companies. These are, of course, a lot of obligations and provisions, and from a technical perspective, very different metrics and measures apply to actually be able to say, okay, I am compliant with the EU AI Act. Here we can see with a magnifying lens on one aspect, the performance and safety, that this already entails, again, different aspects we have to look at. We have, for example, the performance of our AI system. This is what most AI engineers are comfortable with dealing and are used to dealing with, because these are the metrics like the accuracy, the mean average precision, the squared error, where our AI systems are trained upon. But this is not the only one. We have other aspects like the fairness, uncertainty, and the robustness, which is important to know, can also be measured in concrete metrics, but which might have been neglected at design time or during training of our AI. Fairness here means, for example, that we don't want to have any discrimination by sensitive attributes in our AI system. So this is where technical aspect meets a very much ethical aspect of the AI, which then raises the question of how do we want to measure the fairness for a certain application. Uncertainty is all about the AI knowing when it does not know and telling you so. So you want to be able to expect from your AI when it reports a confidence of 0.99 that it's correct 99% of the time. Robustness is about the AI being able to deal with perturbations or distortions, which might come from natural sources. Think, for example, for an imaging AI, which has to be able to work under rain on camera lenses or dirty camera lenses, or wrongfully but not maliciously inputted user data you have to expect. But of course, you also have to be sure to be able to deal with deliberate attacks on your AI, which might be adversarial attacks during the deployment stage of your AI, or maybe even before when it comes, for example, to data poisoning, where you have to make sure that your design and training process of your AI is safe. For this talk, I will go deeper into the topic of how fairness can actually be brought into the process of training AI systems. For this, I've brought an example. And this example is an AI-driven hiring process and something we have seen before, and I know a lot of companies are thinking about using. So a company having many open positions is getting hundreds of applications per day. To speed up the hiring process and leverage these efficiencies, the company wants to use AI to automate or bring some sort of automation into this hiring process. So let's look at a simplified illustration of how this might work. So on the one hand, of course, technically speaking, you have the candidate, and the candidate is supplying you with the information which hopefully is relevant for the decision of whether to hire him or her, or at least give a recommendation of whether to hire him or her. This information could be the candidate's experience, his educational level, expected salary, location, or hobbies. This then is fed into an AI system, for example, a neural network in our case, and this neural network will output maybe a recommendation for you, or maybe even taking the decision for you to hire or not hire a certain candidate. So, because 5 dimensions, of course, are hard to illustrate, let's focus on the 2 most pivotal ones. For example, these might be experience and education for you. So what you technically have is you have getting a lot of applications with different levels of education and different levels of experience. And for each application, you know some sort of suitability measure, how well suited this candidate would be for the open position. Here I've shown this in this room of education, from low education to higher education and lower experience to higher experience. And the shades here indicate whether the candidate would be a good fit for the job or would be not a good fit for the job. We also have the information, which is not explicitly given to the AI, but we know, for example, what gender a person is of. In our example, we have the circular gender and the triangle gender. And what we, of course, now want is the AI to perform some sort of decision for us, to turn this gradual information into a binary classification. Is it a higher or non-higher? And of course, we want our AI to do this in a fair way. And this is usually what is looked at and what we call individual fairness. We want individuals which are close to each other in terms of features, which are similar to each other, to be treated similarly. And this seems to work quite well. At least there are, of course, some points at the decision boundary, some candidates close to the decision boundary where it might fail, but overall it doesn't look so bad. So we have the hires on the right side and not hires on the left side. But is this what is all to it? if we look at from a different perspective, we can also then look at how does the AI treat different groups of people? So how is the group of the triangular and the group of the circular gender treated? And here we see that although the AI may be treating people individually fair, if we look at the ratios in how many triangles and how many circles have been hired, then we see that the percentage of hires for the triangular gender is a lot higher than for the circular gender. And this, to recall, we haven't given the AI any information about the gender, so it wasn't able to see what gender this person was, but the effect shows that we have a disparity here in the rates for selection for the hiring process. So the question is, where does this unfair treatment of certain groups come from? And to answer this question, we have to have a deeper look into fairness, which is called the causal fairness. The problem is that although gender is not explicitly used for the decision of the AI, it may be represented by proxy in the features that are used. So this means that the gender of a person might have an influence on an attribute, on a feature used by our AI, and therefore having an indirect influence on the decision of the AI as well. For example, the gender of a person might influence the access this person has to education. It might influence, due to societal norms, what the expected salary of a person is, what hobbies he or she pursues, and maybe even an indirect influence on the location of a person. Because if it has because maybe an avid mountain climber might be more inclined to live near the Alps, while a person who likes to surf might live near the sea. So we have this attribute, which is not shown to the AI directly, influence attributes which are. That in itself might not be a problem, but this indirect influence has to be analyzed. So the question now is, would the AI decide different if an applicant was of a different gender? And this we can actually answer. There are methods to do this, which is called counterfactual fairness. So we can analyze our data sets that we have, our applicants that we have, in the context of how would an application look like if this person actually was of the other gender, and would our AI have decided differently in this case? So a change in gender might not lead to a change in the experience a person has, but it might, as shown before, lead to changes in the education a person has, the chances for education a person had, the expected salary of this person, the hobbies and the location, and then in effect on the decision of hire that person or not hire this person. This foundation of counterfactual fairness is well known in the AI community and the causal community, but unfortunately it's rarely looked at. But it can help you to identify these hidden biases in your data and in your AI systems to find out whether your AI suffers from certain prejudices here. Such schemes are also nothing new. These have been, for example, been employed in the fitness checks for candidates for police services, where to ensure equal treatment between the different genders, the qualification criteria have been adapted to remedy these biases. So, what can we learn from this simplified example? At first, we have only looked at one singular aspect of what might arise in technical requirements from the EU AI Act. We have seen that for this single aspect alone, we have multiple definitions. Do we want to look at the individual fairness? Do we want to look at the group fairness? And the problem is that these definitions and metrics may be even at odds with each other. So what fairness means for your AI, you have to define beforehand, and you must do so before starting development or before starting your project. So our message would be that the metrics of fairness, for example, as well as performance, robustness, or uncertainty, must be integrated from the start of the project, from the project's get-go. And of course, these are not solely technical topics. We have seen that fairness is a topic between ethics, between compliance, and technical metrics that we have to look at. So it should be done in a joint effort between legal, compliance, and AI engineering. So let's come back to the AI Act. On the left-hand side here, you see the different articles in Chapter 3 of the AI Act, which gives us certain provisions, obligations we have to do and we have to follow for our AI system. And what is important to know is that from a technical perspective, AI engineering can help deliver certain artifacts, deliver certain evidences to prove the compliance with the AI Act. For example, the documentation, which is stretched out over diverse articles in the Act and also part of the Annex, can be in part automated. And this compilation of documentation can help to easily generate with low effort the documentation that is required from the AI Act. We can automatically analyze data sets regarding different attributes and how different types of sensitive attributes may be represented in the data set, hence how biases might exist. We can automatically assess the AI. All these things that I've shown before, like counterfactual fairness, can be measured and therefore integrated as measures in the development process. We can provide logging interfaces to the AI model. We can link all these artifacts in with the risk management, and we can deliver evidences from technical analysis regarding the risk management of your AI and provide, for example, events even from live logging. We have developed such a solution that brings together compliance managers and AI engineers and helps building this bridge between the world of legal and compliance on the one side and the world of AI, which we call Thetis. And what Thetis does is that you have a single source of truth that engineers and compliance managers use together to see how AI solutions fare in the light of the EU AI Act. From a legal perspective, Thetis provides compliance managers or lawyers with a comprehensive overview, rating the AI in the aspects like fairness, bias, or uncertainty demanded by the AI Act. So think of this like a SCHUFA score for your AI for the different categories that we have to take into consideration. And for developers, you can go deeper into these metrics, or if you're interested in it, and see where does this rating come from, what metrics may be not ready yet for release for your AI, and how you can improve on your AI, what you would have to improve to be able to release it. To this end, of course, you not only have the graphical interface shown before, but it also is integrated into MLOps pipelines so that you are constantly getting feedback on your AI solution. So, if you would like to find out more, you can visit our website or visit me and my colleagues who are with me today on this event. I would like to thank you all for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the discussions afterwards. Thank you very much.